Hi again. In this video we will be talking about forms, and I will use the form automatically generated by or in the product table. Actually the code generator generates a number of different forms for each table. The first one is the main form. It's called, in this case, product form because we are using the product. The code generator renders everything out. It is not necessary, but it does it anyway, because in case that a programmer later want to change something, it's much easier if everything is just there. So all the fields in a table is already rendered out. Another thing that a form does is it makes the fields list, and it makes the field set list, which is both used in the administrator module, but it's also used to render the HTML pages, and I will in this video give you an example of that. Most other stuff in terms of logic resides not in the form but in the views. On top of the main form, we also make forms per in the code generator per field group. So the fixed group, which is name and description, have their own form. The reason for that is quite simple. If I go to some kind, I can go to the product definition, for instance. If I click on one of these field groups, let me take standards there, a form for that field group is rendered. If I click on another field group, a form for that field group is rendered. That is why when we generate the forms, we look at the table definition and the field groups inside, and we define a form for the fixed group, for the extra group, and for each and every other field group. Here we have a general field group, and we have a dimension field group from before. Everything is again rendered out, so it's easy to change definitions. On top of that, we also generate a form for queries. If I go back to the application generator here, this is a form, this is a form, and this is a form. The search and the sort is automatically generated since we already know the specific fields that are inherited into the model. Then we have a standard form which is residing under standards for users and dates. In this case, the query form consists of the name, and it consists of a product group. We have a sort form that consists of a field name, which are choices. Here we have the name and the product group, and it consists of a sort order. All forms, if I go to another barcode, for instance, like last time, are basically made the same way. We have the main form at first, where everything is rendered out. We have the meta with the fields and the field sets. We have the different forms per field group, fixed, extra, and in this case none other, because there are no other field groups. We have the query form. One thing which might be interesting to see, if you saw the model video is that by standard, the query form consists of the same fields that you see in the model manager for the specific table. And then the sort form. Sort form again, some fields, a field name, sort order. So that's kind of all about the forms itself. The next thing I'm going to show you is how these forms are rendered into the HTML. Using forms into HTML is done via, first of all, an HTML file, which can be located in templates. If we are looking for products, at least, we have what we call a product form here. We also have a product form list. I'm going to explain about that in a later video. In this case, it's a single record entry form that we are looking at. The HTML is quite simple, actually. We extend again from base HTML. We have a header. We have the form itself. And the form itself includes a standard, in this case, one called tab, which means that the form is rendered out into tabs. If you remember from the application generator interface, if we go to a certain table, I can take products in this case, and we go down to presentation. Here we have design form. In this case, it was one column tabulated. That is why that HTML was included. We also have something called 3 column standards, 1 column collapsed all open, 1 column collapsed standard open. In this case, it was 1 column tabbed. The code generator inserts this include depending on the user choices in the application model for the specific table. These HTML files here reside down in standards underneath templates. You can see them here. Here's the one column tab. We have the 1 column collapse open, 1 column collapse standard open, and the 3 column standard. They're different depending on how we want the fields presented. If I go into the 1 column tab, it's right here, and basically what it does is it first of all goes through the field sets. It sets up the tabs in the top. Then it once more goes through the field sets where it renders each field set into a specific tab underneath. So that's basically how that works. Inside this field set that renders each field, we put in the field name, the label, we put in the help text, etc., etc. And it's created that way and structured that way in order to be able to later have more choices for how the code generator should render fields inside a form. I hope this gives you an overview of how forms work inside the code generator. Thanks for listening. See you in another video.